Welcome to the complete story series, where I take trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you, also known as yelling, shouting, and getting super excited myself and then blowing your eardrums out, but hey, to each his own. Anyway, today we're going to be continuing the storyline of Hal Jordan in the Green Lantern Corps. Now, I need to give you a little backstory on this one. General Zod came out of the Phantom Zone over in the Superman storylines, and after he fought Superman, he took his family and he went out into space, supposedly to not be seen for a little while. Well, as it turns out, he went over and conquered a planet, and as it turns out, Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner need to go stop him. Welcome to Zod's Will. In Space Sector 0 on the sentient planet Amoga, there are two words that come out of Corps leader Jon Stewart's mouth that no one has ever thought that they would hear. I quit. As Jon takes off his Green Lantern ring and he holds it in front of the Council of Guardians, they tell them that they know that he is a man of many triumphs. But they are trying to not do what the previous order has done. They wish to not return to those dark times. They only want to avoid the indiscretions that would hinder them as guides to the Green Lantern Corps. Indiscretions? Jon asks. Because of you, we had to deal with the Blackest Night, the Third Army, and the First Lantern. All those things happened because of you. Ganthet then says that there are only 6 Guardians left, the very last of their kind. They have a responsibility to shepherd the Corps and the universe. Just as he helped rebuild the Corps' reputation, they wish to reclaim the name of the Guardians. They need someone here to remain, someone to caution them if they're to go astray, someone to oppose them, even when they must. The Guardians of the Universe and the Green Lantern Corps need Jon Stewart. Jon has a look at his ring and then he slides it back on, telling them that he won't deny them a good chance because someone else with blue skin has made a mess of things. He's a Marine, and he believes in the chain of command, but he won't just be a yes man. Cross one foot, even a toe over the line, and he'll be there to stomp them. Ganthet tells him should that day come, he will have proven himself to be the Lantern they know him to be. But right now there is a matter that requires investigation in Sector 2811. Dispatch a team at once. A short while later, both Hal Jordan and Kyle Rayner jump out of the transluminal space and onto the planet inhabiting Sector 2811. Kyle walks through the grassy field asking what they're investigating. Everything looks so peaceful and normal. And Hal tells him that some of the sector locals said that they spotted mining ships coming and going. They're probably looking for mineral pirates. The two head over to the ledge and Kyle says that he remembers the mission briefing stating that this planet has a culture roughly equivalent to Earth's Stone Age. And in case he didn't do his history homework, that giant drill over there is not normal for the Stone Age. Hal looks down into a pit with several inhabitants working with a drill and moving minerals, asking, what the hell is going on down there? Just then, the two lanterns feel a presence land just behind them, and General Zod lands, telling them, I will be pleased to explain, but first, welcome, Green Lanterns, to my home. Hal quickly starts capturing Zod, and Kyle asks, did you say Zod? Like General Zod, the Kryptonian terrorist? And Zod then asks, do you know what I missed when I was imprisoned in the Phantom Zone? Sunshine. Zod smiles as he easily shatters Hal's construct, and while Hal charges at Zod, another hand appears, punching Kyle into the ground. Zod's wife Ursa, along with his son Lore and the Eradicator, float down, and Hal picks up Kyle, shouting, we gotta go! The four start to surround the two of them, and Kyle says, alright, 4 Kryptonians, well, technically 3.5, so what now? Hal plans out an attack, and seconds later, he jumps up shouting, I'll take the left! As Hal rushes towards Zod and Eradicator, Kyle jumps towards Ursa and Lore. But just like Zod, Ursa breaks Kyle's construct, and Zod grabs Hal's fist, asking, is this the so-called most powerful weapon in the universe? Zod and Ursa begin to beat down on Hal and Kyle, and as they fly back down to the ground, Zod says, this accelerates my timetable here. Zod then looks at Hal and tells him, you and your comrade were unwise to come here uninvited. This world belongs to the House of Zod. Hal then yells the Green Lantern Corps is coming, and Zod picks up Hal by his head, pulling back his fist, stating, well, the campaign then begins. Later in the stockade, a bloody and broken Hal and Kyle begin to wake up, and Hal asks if he's up yet. Kyle asks who can sleep with all this agony. Breathing hurts, blinking hurts, telling you what hurts hurts. Hal gets up, telling him that it sounds like he got the worst of it. But Zod wants them alive. He's holding them for a reason. Hal then looks at Kyle's finger to see that his ring is missing, and he says that Zod isn't after them. He's after their rings. A short while later, Zod brings Hal out of the holding cell to join them for dinner. Hal looks at the setup and tells him that it's a little late for formalities. And Zod motions to him, telling him to take a seat. It's never too late for diplomacy, until all of the soldiers are dead. Now please sit. Tell me why you choose to come here and trespass. Laura then asks, what is a Green Lantern? And Zod tells him, some call them policemen, others call them an army. Long before you were born, Krypton was under the protection of a creature who wore the Green Lantern uniform, a Zadarian named Tomar Ray. Ursa angrily says, because of his failure, Krypton perished. There's nothing more for us to discuss. Zod then says that Ursa speaks the truth. If not for her and I being trapped in the Phantom Zone, we too would have died. Hal then looks at Lore and tells him, here's an easier answer. The Green Lanterns are the good guys. Ursa slams her hand on the table, shouting, you insolent, weak. But Zod stops her, telling her, perhaps this meeting was a mistake. I had hoped that we could talk as civilized men. Once Eradicator brings Hal back to his cell, he tells Kyle that Zod is stalling for something and he doesn't know why. He took their rings thinking that they're powerless. But what he doesn't know is that ring is different from all of the others. Hal forged his ring himself with his own willpower. There's no way that he can separate them. He begins to focus on his ring, quietly reciting the Green Lantern mantra. And while he does, Eradicator begins to scan on the ring. He then notices that something is happening to Hal's. As he takes a closer look, the ring breaks through the container and it shoots right through Eradicator's head. Hal's ring flies back to him in the cell, and once it slides onto his finger, Hal starts to bring down the cell walls. He helps Kyle up and Kyle coughs, asking, are these bandages even doing anything? Hal picks him up and begins to fly off, telling him that they're holding his insides together. Now strap in, this flight might be bumpy. But before they can get far, Hal sees all of the enslaved people down below, and as he gets closer, he tries to rescue them. And that's when they all begin to surround him. They begin to speak in their native tongue, and Hal's ring says that there is no translation. This subject's language has not been cataloged. Hal looks at them and he tells them that he knows that Zod made them slaves. They're here to help. And the slaves begin to chant, Zod! 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 And Kyle looks up at the painting of Zod, leading the people, stating, I'm starting to think that these are not Zod's slaves. They're his worshippers, Hal. The followers jump into attack, and as Hal creates a barrier, he notices one of the spears piercing the construct. Back with Eradicator, his body begins to repair itself, and he informs Zod that currently, one of the rings is uncontained. Over with the worshippers, Hal says that they got to do something, and he has an idea. He tells the ring to put everything it has into holding Kyle together, and take him home. Kyle shouts for him to wait, but even as he does, Hal's ring begins to attach itself to Kyle, giving him the power of Hal's willpower energy ring. As the power begins to flow through Kyle, he says, Jesus, is this how you feel? Hal grabs one of the spearheads and he tells Kyle, go home and give this to Jon. Tell him where I am. Kyle tells Hal, wait! And Hal shouts for the ring to fly, and seconds later, the ring turns into a rocket, shooting off of the planet. As his energy fades, he looks at the worshippers and he tells them, take me to your leader. Back on Mogo, Jon is trying to make contact with Hal and Kyle when there's a crack of lightning striking down. Everyone rushes outside to ask what the hell is even going on, and Kyle, wearing his lantern uniform, shouts, yeah, you gotta hurry! Hal needs our help! After putting Kyle into a container cube because Hal's pure energy is too much for him, Kyle begins to explain the situation. The minerals that they are mining have the ability to pierce Green Lantern constructs. And right now, Hal is being held by a group of worshippers led by Zod himself. Jon and Guy both begin to shout, asking, Zod? And Jon then says, we have to keep Kyle here until he stabilizes. Until then, I'm gonna report this to the Guardians. But Kyle just yells, just say when! I'm fueled up and ready to fly! Wait! Since when do I say things like that? Guy tells him, wait, for facing a Kryptonian nut job, we're gonna have to move out now. We gotta go in hard, rings blazing. Hal would do it for us. And Jon says the Guardians have been around for a long time. They would be useful in this situation. But as Jon begins to leave, Kyle says, I'm fueled up and ready to fly? Since when do I say that? Guy tells him that it sounds like some of Jordan passed on to him through the ring. Ready for action? Kyle yells, blast off! A short while later, in the chamber of the Guardians, Jon explains everything to the Guardians, and then he recommends that they send in an attack platoon to bring Hal in. The Guardians ask, General Druzad, the Kryptonians establishing themselves on a Yellow Sun system is no small matter. We must discuss the matter and determine the best course of action. While the Guardians talk, Jon interrupts them, shouting that Hal is being held against his will. Make the call. Gantha says that they understand that they owe a debt to Hal, but the Council will not fall prey to these impulses. Jon storms out of the chamber, stating that he misses the old days. Meanwhile, back with Guy and Kyle. Guy says that he's got a feeling that the Council is going to take their sweet time. Kyle yells, yeah! You can put the fighter pilot into containment, but you can't contain the fighter pilot. Wait, that doesn't even make sense! Guy then pushes the button to open up a door, stating that they don't need any more nice guy insights. We just need the fighter pilots, and we got a whole group here. A few seconds later, Jon sees several lanterns leaving Mogo at light speed, and he smiles, asking, what took them so long? Back inside the fortress of Zod, Zod asks Eradicator where is he on the analysis of the Green Lantern ring. Eradicator tells him that progress continues. The ring's security programming is robust, however not impenetrable. Zod then says that it is imperative that they acquire everything. The success of our gambit depends on it. Just a few moments later, over at Zod's fortress, there's a green light flickering, going off, and Kyle flies in with a group of lanterns shouting, "Who let the dog fighters out?" Everyone starts to pull apart the fortress, and the worshippers begin to run in with their spears, and Guy asks, "Who brings spears to a ring fight?" Kyle tells him that those sunstones could really mess them up. "But I got something to cool their jets." With a swing of his arm, he rips apart the ground, creating a fissure that separates the worshippers from the fortress. Guy then tells him, "All right, that's too much Halness. Nobody likes it when he hogs all the action." Then Zod shouts that everyone will leave his home or join Hal Jordan as his prisoner. Guy then yells, "Now those are my kind of fighting words." As the forces of the Green Lanterns and the House of Zod clash, Kyle begins to let Hal's essence take over, and Zod smiles, telling him, "Last time I saw you, I had beaten you purple." Kyle tells him, "I'm the same guy, just a new look. I now wield the power of 2 Green Lanterns," and he slams Zod into the ground with his construct. Just as he does, the Green Lanterns begin to hear the worshippers chanting for Zod, and they begin to throw their spears. Kyle tells Officer Chad to go ahead and shut down the faithful, while he finishes wiping up the tarmac with the man himself. Chad then creates a giant 2-handed gun, and he begins to fire into the crowds, telling them that he's beginning mod suppression, Lantern Rainer. While Chad has their attention, Space Ape constructs 2 oversized arms, and he jumps in the middle of the group, slamming them down into the ground, knocking everyone over. Raynun then steps down on Ursa while Kilowog in the other's container, and Kyle tells Zod to just give it up before this goes too far. Zod pulls himself out of the ground, stating that he learned combat on the battlefields of Krypton. "You have no idea how far I'll go." The guy then begins to crack his knuckles, stating that maybe he could finally hit something. And just as he does, Lore flies in, punching him. Guy rubs his jaw, telling him, "Look, I ain't your old man. I don't just go around knocking around kids. Go back to the playpen and send someone who doesn't need a diaper change." Lore jumps into the air ready to strike, and Guy dusts himself off, asking, "Anyone gonna put Junior in timeout? Kid's eyeballing me with that I don't respect elders look." Ursa says that she thinks that they've been lenient enough, husband, and Zod punches Kyle, breaking his mask, and he tells her, "You may do as you wish." Ursa breaks free from Kilowog and the others and begins to fight back, and Lore begins to punch into Guy, with Guy yelling, "Come on! I'm trying to do the right thing here!" Zod, however, continues to beat into Kyle, knocking him into the air, punching him back and forth. Zod then grabs Kyle out of the air, telling him, "You have no authority here. The House of Zod does not bend knee to tyrants. We are here to rebuild Krypton." Kyle coughs, telling him, "Haha, we didn't come here to talk about Krypton. I didn't even come here for you. I came here for my friend." Hal's essence begins to grow inside of Kyle, separating itself from the ring and blasting Zod with the purest form of willpower. Zod braces himself, but as the light begins to fade, the ring falls off Kyle's finger. And Zod asks, "Is that the full extent of 2 Lanterns' might? You didn't even disturb my hair." While Ursa and Lore begin to finish beating on the others, Ursa yells, "I will kill them!" Guy struggles all bloodied up from Lore, telling him, "Come find me when you're 18, kid." And Zod flies down, stating the battle is over. As general, he orders the 2 of them to stop further attacks. A voice then tells Zod, "I hate to break it to you, but I don't take orders." Hal, breaking free from prison, wearing his ring, explodes onto the scene, wielding the full power of himself. As the 2 powerhouses collide, going at each other, Guy gathers himself up and tells Kyle to hang in just a bit longer. One way or another, it's gonna be over soon. Hal and Zod continue to bounce off of each other, with Hal shouting to Zod, "You're under arrest!" Zod breaks through the construct shield, punching Hal down, telling him, "We both know how this battle's going to end." Hal catches himself before hitting the ground, and he rockets back up, telling him, "You know what your weakness is? A god complex. The locals see you fly and they think you're a big deal." And Zod tells him, "Kryptonians are gods! We only need a yellow sun to make it so. This world orbits too." Hal charges his ring, asking, "You know what they used to call another man flying by us? It wasn't God. They called him a trespasser." Hal releases his charge, creating a giant missile, and he fires it straight at Zod's side. Zod's body shoots down through a stone pillar, and as Guy watches, he asks, "Why does Jordan get to do all the fun stuff?" Zod pulls himself out of the ground, shouting, "That is enough! The Green Lanterns are beneath Zod." Zod flies back up, and Hal creates a dozen fighter jets. But Zod uses his heat vision, ripping them apart. Zod then laughs, stating, "I'm finishing up your imaginary aircrafts like paper, easily burned." And Hal laughs, telling him, "I love how Army guys think. Every fight is forward, but in the Air Force, you learn that the battles are 360 degrees. Zod begins to ask, "What are you talking about?" And he looks back to see himself getting hit by a giant cargo plane. As Zod tries to recover, Hal calls out to him again, but this time flying another cargo plane, stating, "In all of my years of flying, I've never crashed 2 planes at once." The 2 planes collide into each other, creating a massive green explosion. And as Zod's family watches on, Hal flies down, restraining Zod, telling him, "You are under arrest." But before he could leave, Ganthet and the other Guardians appear, telling him that these events are in defiance of their command. "You must release the General." Hal sets Zod down, stating, "Like hell I will." And Ursa yells, "If it's hell you want, there's 2 more Kryptonians who will give it to you." Guy passes Kyle off and runs in, but before Ursa and Guy can swing, Ganthet stops him, stating that there is no more conflict today. Hal asks, "Are you insane?" And Jon tells him to do as he says, that's an order. Hal pauses for a moment and then he releases the shackles. Ganthet tells Ursa that she shall allow their lanterns to return home with their rings. Zod wipes the blood from his mouth, stating that if anyone is to leave this world, it's because I allow it. This is my home. These lanterns arrived uninvited. They attacked without cause. Is this law? Is this justice? I say this is more like a tyranny. Just then Eradicator flies down, stating that he brings the confiscated ring, and Zod tells him to release it, to show a gesture of leniency. One the Green Lanterns do not deserve. The ring flies off, sliding back onto Kyle's finger, and Zod continues stating, "We reject your protection." Hal starts to push his way through, shouting that there is no way they're going to let Zod walk, and Jon grabs him, stating that this is about bringing Kyle home. Trust me on this. Hal pulls himself away, telling him that he better know what he's doing, and Jon turns to Zod, telling him, "Do not take us for fools. We know you're up to something here. If you don't want our protection, fine, but we will protect the rest of the universe from you." Soon the Green Lanterns leave, and as Zod flies up into space, he basks in the light of 2 suns, and says, "Every bruise, every drop of blood I shed is for the glory of Krypton, but the House of Zod." As Ursa and the others fly up, she says that she does not understand. They could have easily slaughtered the Green Lanterns. And Zod tells her, of course, but because he gave the Guardians what they wanted, they overlooked what and missed what he wanted. Population statistics for every inhabited world, weapons specifications, force assessments for every military. They have the map of the entire universe. That Lantern's ring provided us with a very clean insight to the universe as we know it. Later, back on Mogo, Jon looks over the computer and says that he can feel him stewing back there, spit it out. Hal says that maybe he's got Kryptonian on the brain, but he's thinking of that mission to Earth that he sent him. The one with Superman, where he ran into problems with Hector Hammond. After that, he couldn't help but think, if they took care of some of these threats, permanently, once in a while, the universe would be a much safer place. Jon looks back and tells him, "I've been there. That isn't police work, though. That's war." And with that, Hal doesn't say a word and he flies off. And there you have it, more of one of my favorite intergalactic space teams ever, the Green Lantern Corps. Make sure you subscribe to see where this story is going next, because it involves the Dark Stars and Guy Gardner turning evil. It is epic as hell. But you know what? Why don't you come on over to our gaming channel, Eligible Monster, youtube.com/Eligible Monster, where we're doing gaming content, we're bringing you gaming podcasts, and we're talking about things that matter to us as gamers, like Pokemon Go. Have you been playing Pokemon Go lately? They came out with a whole bunch of stuff, and I just want to show this off in a video right here. I got a shiny Kyogre, but the best part about it is I didn't actually get the shiny Kyogre. Like, I didn't actually get this thing at all. I was at the Denver Comic-Con, and Dan took my phone and got it, and then he lost it himself. So Dan named my shiny, I'm probably mispronouncing it, because we renamed it to Dan's Tears, because Dan didn't get the shiny Pokemon. Dan's Tears, everyone. Oh, I didn't get the shiny. Subscribe, we'll see you next time.